ask you is, how did you get into music in the first place?
Music has always been an integral part of my life. My oldest cousin was a piano and guitar player. My parents actually got him a guitar for his high school graduation. But my parents also, my dad had an extensive record collection. They were always listening to stuff around the house. I was brought to concerts when I was very little, but I don't have like a huge recollection. I just know that it was something that always called out to me and felt very natural. As a matter of fact, I started playing guitar officially right after my mom passed away, which was obviously a devastating loss, but to have solace in something that was so familiar.
And how old were you when that happened?
I was 11 years old.
Oh my God, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right. I mean, it's part of the path, right? I mean, like it's something I think about every day. You know, I have pretty much no choice but to think about it because I picked up the instrument to use as an outlet to get those feelings instead of keeping them in, put them out and make something positive out of something.
I used to be better at rolling with the punches, and I used to be better at playing your game. Oh, well, I used to be better, but now don't it feel ashamed?
Was she musical too?
She played the piano a little bit. She would sing to me. You know, that's
Okay.
something for sure. Like, I would not say that she was truly a musician. She was an educator,
Okay.
but she had a great love of music and was always very encouraging about pursuing things that were important to you.
Now, like, once you started your journey, what did you find, like, either musically or as a person, like, what was your biggest hurdle?
I think the biggest hurdle in my youth was not having enough knowledge about the possibility of it actually being a pursuable future.
Okay.
So, like, if you were in band or jazz band or any like concert orchestra or something like that in high school, they had a trajectory for you. You know, maybe you go to a music school, perhaps you pursue Broadway, etc. But when you're a rock and roll guy and you express that you want to be a rock and roll guy, there's not that many lines of support.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of find them myself, and I'm happy for that now. It was 25 years later, but I said to my guidance counselor, I want to be a musician, and he was like, "What are you talking about? You know,
Yeah.
people don't do that."
Can't give it a rest, can't take your time, and don't hold your breath, or you can have what's left of mine. And after all the world, it seems like we're all pushing boulders up and over the same hill. And I swear if it ain't this life that kills you, nothing will. Living on the land that the lions in lockstep. Can't sit down, can't look back, I can't give it a rest.
People don't do that. You can't make a living doing that.
And it's crazy that like the thing that's even crazier about it is that, you know, when you're a kid, you don't have the tools really to kind of snap back at that. And I don't even mean in a negative way, but, you know, if you watch television, commercial jingles, stuff like that, if you listen to the radio, there's broadcasting, there's Saturday Night Live band. Every single late night talk show has a band, you know, but you see that and it's kind of like a given. It's like a foregone. It's like Kodak or Kleenex, you know, like you're just like, oh, they're just there.
Yeah.
So you don't think of that as a possible outcome. Not until much later was I like, holy shit, like all of these things are professions. These are people. So seeing things like that is one of the things that drew my attention to the idea that earlier somebody could have given me a little bit of guidance but didn't.
Yeah.
And then that I was able to figure it out, not entirely on my own. I had help. I mean, there are people, you start realizing stuff around you, like things that didn't used to jump out at you, you know, like being at a bar and there's somebody playing music.
Yeah.
And you know, when I was 16 or 17 out at like a restaurant at like Bennigan's or something like that, and there's a guy playing guitar, it still didn't quite register that that's probably something he was doing for money.
Yeah.
Because when I was in bands in high school, we went out, we did it for the love. You know, we drove all around the East Coast. I was in punk and ska and like rock, funk bands and shit. And we would just get a parent or older sibling to drive us to these gigs that always were at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon because you weren't allowed to be in places much later than that. And we loved it, and we made records, and it was just a true project of passion. I didn't have an idea. Like, I knew I wanted to do it for a living.
Yeah.
I just had no idea what the mechanics of that were until I was about 19, 20. I was bartending, and a dude came in and he was like, I heard you play guitar and then you're sitting, I need somebody to do some gigs with me this summer, and I'll pay you this much money. And I was like, what did you just say?
So it like literally walked up to you and was like,
pretty much.
Hey, by the way.
Yeah,
that's
I
awesome.
heard you play. I've heard from people that you know what you're doing, and I'll pay you money. And at the time, the money he was offering me was as much as I was going to make in an 8-hour shift.
When did you make the transition? So you said you were bartending. When did you make the transition to where this was what you were doing full time?
2008, I was still bartending and gigging a couple times a week.
Okay.
And it was sort of like I was bartending 6 times a week and gigging 0. And then it was like 5-1, then 4-2, and then around the time that it got to 3-3, I thought to myself, well, if I can just tip that one more, I don't really need to bartend anymore, effectively. And then the bar realized that's what I was doing. They kind of made the decision for me. I was let go, and I was actually getting a tattoo of a guitar.
Here it is.
When they called to fire me.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So I mean that's kind of providential though. It's like, okay, it's time for me. Like, but how did you feel in that kind of immediate, like the day after, like, okay, I don't have this job now? What were the feelings that day?
It was intense. I mean, like the guy who tattoos me, his name is Rich Verdino. He's a super insightful guy, and you know he's buzzing away. And I took the call, and I hung up. He was like, "Sounds like you just got set free."
It's okay if you want what you need. It's alright if you're talking in your sleep. When I pray for you, asking my need, but I know you don't believe me. I'm on the verge of breaking. I'm on the verge of breaking. I'm on the verge of breaking now. Or am I sweating this fever out?
I'd taken some time. I was planning to go to LA anyway, so the conversation with my brother, who manages me and kind of handles the majority of my life's logistics, was, let's go on this trip, don't worry about it.
It was already planned.
Yeah, it was already planned. I had some money, like and it was paid vacation too, but they couldn't take that away. Crazy. Like, they should probably have been able to, but I don't know anything about that. But we went on the trip. I started meeting people, and they were like, what do you do? I was like, I'm a musician. You know, I just started saying it, you know, like, and like, it felt very different from saying, bartender. I love bartending. I love bartenders.
You'd be a dope bartender. I didn't know that you did that.
I did. I enjoyed it. And it helped a lot. I mean, it made a huge difference in my musical. I mean, like, they are so, like, it's performance no matter what you're doing. I mean, like, and music is service and bartending is performance and vice versa. So, like, I have a huge appreciation for both crafts. They're both skills. Mm-hmm. But I said it, and I found the way that it felt to say it, you know, like, it moreover even than like manifesting something. I was like, no, this is true. Like, I earn, that's how I earn my money now. I don't have another job.
Yeah, it's like,
and now it was kind of up to me to be able to keep saying that. I was like, I don't ever want to not say that again. It feels too good.
that's awesome.
So we got back from LA and picked up a gig here, a gig there. I had some extraordinary people in my life make it probably a little easier than it could have been, you know, just by being like, hey man, I can't do this show, you want to fill in for me? Pick that gig up, and then the place is like, hey, you want to come back? So it was 2008. It was the summer of 2008 that it really got, like, hit the ground running serious.
Okay, so, and I've noticed in my own journey as I've made the decision to step more fully into my art, things kind of magically fall into place. What's your, like, fall into place story?
Well, I have the belief, like, I've always I hate platitudes, but I do think that hard work and opportunity equals success. You know, like, that if you are working hard, like, things that seem divine and like a miracle are actually just because you were prepared.
Yeah.
There's a couple. I mean, off top, I mean, just getting that first gig for money was something where, and I'll shout out to him. His name is John Rizzo. And everybody knows who John is. Like him and his dad are like staples of this scene, and they're both just extraordinary people with extraordinary talent, and they're very generous. So I mean, like the hey, I've got a gig for you, come and do this, was like, that was the moment, and so that was definitely a big one of them. And then I have another very dear friend. His name is Jake and KO. I'm still in touch with him, and he was just a guy who invited me out to sing 2 or 3 songs on gigs of his, and then ultimately was like, hey man, I double booked, can I throw you on this gig? So it was just sort of like, I wouldn't say that it fell into my lap as much as I felt like they trusted me.
Yeah.
I felt like they trusted me, like they believed in what I was trying to do, and that they wanted me to be able to do it, because if I'm available to the world, then I'm available to them too.
Yes.
And so it felt, I mean, it felt logical more than divine, which I know they're not always mutually exclusive, but I was really excited by the idea that I could be reliable.
Yeah.
You know, that.
Well, and you have these relationships that are providing
Yeah.
that you've built these really strong relationships. That's a huge
And these relationships which were predicated on the mutual love of music, and it wasn't about money. I mean, like the fact that there was money available still continues to fucking blow my mind. I mean, it was like, I was just like, you gotta be kidding me! This is the best thing ever. You know.
This isn't real. This isn't my life.
Yeah. So those are the types of things. I mean, I've had some pretty incredible opportunities over the course of years in terms of playing, opening for Wyclef is a really wonderful thing. That was a very fun, like an opening for Rob Thomas. I played at Central Park Summer Stage, and these are things that are like they're joyous in the moment, but you know, like as I was sitting backstage at Summer Stage with the production manager, and she was like, "There's 7,500 people out there. Like, don't you feel like weird?" And I was like, "No, I feel weirder in here. I just want to go out and play.
I don't want to be here."
Well, I was like, I can't wait to go do that. Like sitting in here, it just like this feels like weird blue balling. Like I want to go out and play.
Yeah.
And so those are, and then you get out and you play. And you sort of, I've been lucky enough to be able to internalize that I try to take stuff in, like I really do, because it goes so fast no matter what. Mm-hmm. But when I go out on a stage, especially one like that, I look around for, like, you know, it's not like pick up, plug in, rock out. I just like take a minute, you take a breath, you sort of observe your surroundings and realize that you made this happen. You know,
but nobody's listening. It's more than meets the eye. Oh, and nobody's listening. Nobody. Still some of the biggest acts in the entire world. Mm-hmm. Bruce Springsteen. I mean, like the music you're exposed to is like by default the biggest stuff.
Yes.
And then you learn, and especially with access to the internet and stuff like the technology we have now, is that there are so many people, so many extraordinarily talented people, so much music you have never heard and might never hear. That's great. Yeah. You know, like, and that's a lesson that comes with staying in it. And, you know, I don't think that I ever even, I never thought I want to be the Rolling Stones. You know what I mean? Yeah. I was like, I want to be me. Yeah. Can I do that?
Yeah. So, like, that's a good segue into, like, what's next? Like, where do you want to go from here? What's down the road?
This is a particularly strange time for that question. Because
yes, of course it is. Mid-quarantine, gigs aren't happening.
Somebody did just ask me that very recently, and I think so. I've had the time to write a lot, you know, and that is, I think, one of the things that I want to make sure that I do is see to it that these songs that I've worked on over the course of the last 3.5 months see the light of day.
Yeah.
And that's one of my immediate goals in terms of making sure, beyond a shadow of doubt, that this time has not passed in vain. I mean, and I was extremely productive in the first, I want to say, like 6-7 weeks. I wrote something like 15 or 16 songs.
Wow, that's a lot.
And it was, and
That's
it was,
a lot.
and I was going by the template of a couple of my favorite songwriters, Jason Isbell, Anastasio, and Sam Beam from Iron and Wine, who are guys that I've heard say repeatedly, they wake up in the morning, they go into their studio and they just start writing. Like, it doesn't really matter what comes out, it's just like that exercise. So I had done that for a couple of weeks straight, and I was finding it to be extremely productive. And then at a certain point, in truth, I mean, I did a lot of this writing. I was very proud of a good portion of it. And there was a day that I woke up that I went in to write, and I was like, I'm a little bit spinning my wheels here. And that happens. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, like, I was like, I'm a little bit spinning my wheels, and I'm playing this thing, and it sounds a little too much like a thing I just did. Let me get some space, because one of the things for me is being a live guy. I've never been home this much in my life.
I believe that.
Like,
and I know, like, I follow your Facebook, and you're, like, all over New York all the time. Like, every day. You're
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, and it's awesome.
It's amazing, and it's a weird valve to shut off. So one of the ways that I've always, so I've never been quite as like, writing 17 songs in 6 weeks is not really something that I've ever done before.
Yeah.
But one of the things, like, in my writing process in the past was I always had an opportunity to go play it live and see what it was.
Yeah.
You know, so like I would finish the song, go out and play it. If it got a reaction, cool. Maybe this needs a tweak, but like maybe that song's done. Play it the next day, a different part of it gets a reaction, you know, and so like having no opportunities to play for people, and the live streams are great. I love this shit, and making videos is awesome, and revision on your own time is excellent, and sort of a new process for me. But I really need the ability to give the songs come alive in a very different way when you play them for people.
Yeah.
And not having that opportunity, definitely after a little bit, I made peace with that. I was going to have to wait, but I have this bunch here, whatever it is, these 12, 15 new babies, and I want to give them the opportunity to live. And I sort of started to feel like if I just keep writing, and there's however many you get from 15 to 45 or something like that, and then something gets lost in the shuffle, and maybe one that I was really dedicated to in the beginning doesn't get the attention that it needs. So I'm in a process now where I'm having, very fortunately, the ability to go play a little bit.
Yeah.
As things start to open up on Long Island, and less so, but starting to happen in Queens and in the city. So I'm bringing 3 or 4 of these out a night and playing them and getting to play them live.
Getting to test them.
Hearing them through speakers is just way different than playing it like just, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
just for me. And so what's next would be figuring out which of that bunch I want to fully produce and kind of give
The full treatment.
yeah.
Bringing it, like, fly away, little
Yeah,
bird,
but
fly away.
that's what it is.
It is.
I mean, like, once you finish it in your heart, honestly, and then you set it to record, then it's up to the song and the people. Because I mean, it's rare that your favorite song that you wrote is the favorite song of the people listening, which is fine with me.
Almost always.
Yeah.
And so, like, kind of deviating, so now we know you're going to get back into the live gigs, new music's coming.
Yes.
Something I would just like to know, just for fun and later for the video, what is a completely useless talent that you have?
Completely useless talent. Wow. I mean, I was gonna say I have an extraordinary memory, but that's not useless at all. It served me very well.
It's totally useless.
It's like funny enough. It's the first thing that popped into my head. And to get back to something else about the high school shit. So like, I memorize movies and songs. Like that's like movie quotes, songs, song lyrics, etc. And like my teachers would occasionally be like, "If only you knew this chapter or whatever as well as you know Back to the Future." I'm like, if you could make this chapter as interesting to me as Back to the Future is, maybe I'd do a better job remembering it. So like, I was almost sort of made to feel like my ability to remember stuff was being wasted, but it's completely not that.
That's not that way. Like,
no,
it suits what you have to do every day.
So I mean, I don't know. I can't think. Like, and one of the other things is like I haven't. So I've heard Steve Vai say this, like, and he's like, I don't really work on my weaknesses. You know, so like So like a useless talent, if it's useless, then I don't.
Yeah.
If
Well, some people though they're really gifted at like an imitation or an accent, and it's not really like valuable in any way. They're just like, I'm really good.
I
at
could
this.
just really do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that.
Okay, circle back. We'll add that in visually.
Yeah.
So we're going to have Brian play a live show for us. It's going to be streamed. The videos will also be saved, and they'll be on my YouTube channel. If you follow my Instagram or my Facebook page, you'll have access to all of these, as well as Brian's information, so that you can give him a follow on Instagram, Facebook, all of the places. And as New York continues to open up, for those of you in New York, you have to go see him play. It's one of the best things you will ever do in your life. I remember, I think the first time I saw you was playing at the Stout.
Yeah. Stout, you had the vinyl purse.
Yes.
Or the shaped like a vinyl record, yeah.
And so someone had told me about you, and I was like, I'm going to go see it. That was one of the best shows I've ever seen. And also, like, you're such an amazing person. Like, the beard, the hair, everything. His hair's longer than mine. Like, for real. It's a real thing.
If it weren't so hot, I would take it.
If it weren't so hot, it is. I'm like, it's a blanket. But it was just incredible. And like every show I've seen of yours has been incredible. I'm excited for these. I'm excited for the new stuff.
I appreciate it. I'll play a new one during the stream. A couple maybe.
Maybe one or two. So we're going to get rolling on that, and we'll see you next episode.
1 in a million. 1 in a million. 1 in a million. Not enough that I'll leave you off, and I'll take the time to read my own rights. Just enough that I might carry out the trash. Oh, well, I won't take my time. I can't see me living. I'll lead my own life. Maybe everything is 1 in a million. Maybe everything is 1 in a million. Through the sheetrock, I hear stories of the chronicles of now. In apartment halls, they're screaming out, there's more than meets the eye. Oh, but nobody's listening. There's more than meets the eye. Oh, well, nobody's listening. Nobody. Oh, and for what it's worth, I've told you time and time again. In 1 ear and out the other end. Oh, you read me a story, tell me everything. I'll just stay out late. Well, 'cause you know everything is 1 in a million. Yeah, you know everything is 1 in a million. 1 in a million, yeah. Through the sheetrock, I hear stories of the chronicles of now. In apartment halls, we're screaming out, there's more than meets the eye. Oh, but nobody's listening. There's more than meets the eye. Oh, nobody's listening. Nobody's listening. Nobody. Thank you very much. So it's called 1 in a million. That's also brand new. That's one of the quarantine sessions.
Woo! Quarantine sections.
So I love you guys. I love you, Monty. I love you, Kooks. I love you guys. Make some noise again for the live cam. So it is Brian with an I, Rips with 2 P's. I'm gonna do one more, and then this will be episode 1 of Monty Mader's Leap of Faith tour. live from Kookaburra Coffee Raffle Center. And I don't know what to play now. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. It's okay if you want and wish and need. It's alright if you're talking in your sleep.